All right, this is part 2 of how I finish cabinet doors with paint. Basically, if you saw part 1, we were at primer. We did our first coat of paint, and now we're going on to the second coat. The only new step here is, that first coat isn't fully uniform because it is one coat, but we are going to add a scuff sand to this. We'll hit all the sides, hit the face, and the goal of that is to remove any high spots that might have been developed in primer stage or even in that first coat, and then any overspray. So that second coat is going to be able to get put on and just float flat. This is 320 grit. I rough it up a little bit. Ideally I'd use 400. I just don't have any right now. So 320. I'll put a link for these. Really great, ergonomical sanding blocks. But we're just doing a very light scuff sand to smooth everything out. And then you're just going to take it. The beauty of this being flat rather than you just using your hand is it's going to make everything that's high go even with anything that's low. So that's all we're doing. And then you can see what gets hit is high. So a good example being, you can see that wood grain, right? Because that wood grain raised when the primer went on, even when the paint went on, and now we're trying to smooth that out. You're always going to see it a little bit, but try to get it as flat as possible. Then we just hit the inside here. And then keep a good lookout for any imperfections that might need a little more attention. Often with these shaker doors, you'll find like these areas that are closer to the rail there are the ones that may have a little bit of buildup or overspray on them. So just make sure you get at those. Again, real light. I'm not trying to remove any paint. We're just trying to make it flush, feel smooth. Once you get done, give it a little blowski, and then give it a wipe. We don't want any dust on these things. Now, rinse and repeat. These steps of sanding in between, a professional painter might be able to get away from that, but it is very important, in my opinion, for this finish to have a nice, uniform, and smooth feel. And I know that most people don't feel their doors, and this may just be for me, but if you're gonna do something, just do it right. I've actually never had a client comment on the finish, which is a good thing, I guess, right? They'll comment if it's bad, but if it's good, you did your job, and that's ultimately what you're being paid to do. Even though you're blowing the air, like I say, you see, that's still what's on that. So don't think the air is doing it all for you. You're going to want to give it a wipe. You have all the doors done. Just going to paint it just like we did in part 1. And from there, especially with the dark color, we'll see how that sets up and if we need to do a third coat. I like to kind of always have it in my mind that I'm going to do 3 coats, just so that schedule-wise I'm prepared for it. But based on how this first coat laid, I'll go a little thicker on this second coat. I think we might just get away with 2. And I will say, I am not really putting any pressure. The weight of this has a little bit of weight to it. This is what my pressure is. Just consistent pressure, but I'm not pushing. I am not trying to remove paint here. I'm just trying to hit the high spots down. wonder if you can swear on YouTube. I like to swear. Been known to have a little bit of a dirty mouth, I've been told. So when I'm not swearing, I feel like I sound super professional. And as a self-proclaimed rebel, sounding professional kind of bores me, bums me out a little bit. So I'm not going to swear yet. I don't want to, get in trouble. But, and two, I guess if you're young, right? Like young kids might want to learn how to do this. But then also, like, young kids can't swear all of a sudden. They should see it's all in the shows, in the movies, and all that. They're swearing. But I'll keep it PG for now until I learn if I can or can't. Just be my true self, I'm like a peacock, I just want to spread my wings and fly. Some would say mother effing fly. Also, like, I don't sound like this in real life. This is like super, I feel like I could read you a bedtime story. Very calm, very sweet and nice right now. In real life, I'm pretty loud. And, very cussy. I'm also incredibly opinionated. And all around badass. I'll say badass. Why not? Ass isn't a swear. Because it's referring to a donkey when I say it, right? My personality is right up there with Clint Eastwood in I forget the name of that movie. The Get Off My Lawn. I'm not at the get off my lawn age yet, but I'm going to fit right in when that happens. And I'll tell you what, filming all this by myself, and I'm not going to therapy anymore, so I got a feeling you're about to become my new therapist. So hang tight. I won't confess to any murders, because that would just be silly. But I might talk about wanting to do some. Alright, so if watching that was anywhere near as much fun as it was doing it, I'm sorry. So let's get ready for paint. You saw that in part one. If you didn't watch part one, you should watch part one, because this is part two, and part one comes before part two. This is where it gets loud though. So again, using a Fuji sprayer, I love it, but it is loud, and exhaust fan will be on. So hopefully the new mic allows you to hear me. I'll also put a link for this guy in the below. I'm new to YouTube, so I didn't even know I could do links, so I know now. So I'll have some links to that as well. And then again, I just made this out of some wood. You could just set the doors right on there, but I like using little stickies if I can. I have already set up my paint, but we'll give it a test. And it's ready to go. So of course, wear a mask. I'm not going to wear a mask. I told you earlier that I'm kind of badass, like a donkey, but mainly I don't think you can hear me, and the ventilation in here is pretty good. So despite the fact it looks like a hobo camp, I don't know if you can say hobo. Is that swearing? I might have just swore. All right, so I'm gonna start with the sides. I'm gonna do a nice thick coat on this, but again, I build up. So we're gonna do 4 passes basically, to build up rather than one big thick pass. Different methods for everybody, and I'm not a painter, so it's weird that I'm making a how-to paint, but it's expensive to hire painters, and so learning how to do it yourself can not only save you some money, but it can produce some really great results. And honestly, it's tedious work, but it's a nice break from what a normal day of a woodworker's life is. So I don't mind it, as long as I'm only doing it every couple months. Here we go. So again, I'm going to go a little thicker on each pass. Kind of cheating. Really don't want to do a third coat on these. But with these dark paint colors, like I said earlier, truly is best to just plan to do 3 coats. You don't want to be rushing any of this. And the best part about doing the 4 passes like I do, this is not a flat board, right? So there is these grooves where the stiles and the panels sit back. And by doing it this way, I'm ensuring that I'm getting the door from every angle. Hopefully getting into all of those grooves. You know, Stella, she had lost her groove, but she eventually got it back. And I heard a rumor she found it in a spray booth. And that has to be probably the dumbest thing I've ever said. So that's fun. If you didn't watch part 1 of this video, a little bit I need on the side here I just caught. This paint is got a 10% thin to it. So I just thin with water. I am not daring enough to mess with chemical thinners. But I know that they work well for those that use them. I think Penetrol or something like that. I've seen it at even Home Depot. I've used it only on the hood of one of my classic trucks I had a while back. It actually like acted as a sealer. I saw some dude in Australia do his entire VW bus with like 2 $8 bottles of this stuff, and you got to do it once a year, but it's a really good finish. It floats, or it levels itself out. So, you know, I wouldn't do it on a nice car, but a older classic that you don't really want to do body work on, it's pretty cool. So I could again adjust this gun to give me way more paint than you're seeing currently. I highly recommend, if you are not a everyday painter, to do what I am doing. It's much easier to control your piece by slowly building up your paint than just blasting it. So I absolutely could do this in one pass with a little more paint coming out, but you know, you got to know your limitations. And abide by them, basically. And I tell you what, I'm glad I planned for 3 coats, because just how these are sitting, I'm gonna need 3 coats. which is fine. Again, this is an Emeralds paint from Sherwin-Williams. They have better paint. Let me rephrase that. They have other paints. So I like Emerald. I like working with it. I like how it dries. That said, its downside is the time it takes to cure. So paint drying in a half an hour is great, but it's not cured, right? So it needs more time than that. And I mean, honestly, it can take up to 4 or 5 days depending on the temperature before it gets to a place that I like it. But just because the paint is dry to the touch, is what they say, it doesn't mean if you were to push it, you couldn't leave a mark or even remove it. So when I say cure, I mean get to the point where it's solid and it's not going to scratch or wipe or do anything like that. And so this Emerald does take a little longer to cure. It's just the price point's great, and if you have the time in your schedule to wait for it to cure, why not? So I could also adjust this gun to have a larger fan, essentially covering more surface area than I am currently, which I would typically do, even on doors like these. But if you saw during the highly riveting sanding process, I have some doors that are going to receive a glass panel, and so it's just the stiles and rails. I don't know what the hell you call these and these, no center. So having a big fan would yield a lot of waste of my paint, and I don't want to have to recalibrate my gun in the middle, so I'm just using it like that. A couple more passes, a little more work for the forearm. Free workout though, so who's complaining, right? Everybody wants a painter's forearm, I'm pretty sure. It's kind of funny that my first 2 YouTube videos are me painting, and I am a carpenter, glorified one at best, but I guess it shows you just how arrogant I am. That I'm like, oh, I'll do YouTube. Why don't I do a video on painting this thing that isn't my profession? I guess that's all the internet is, though. Anyway, it's not just a bunch of people talking about stuff they don't even know about. At least I kind of know. I was taught to do this. I just don't do it professionally. That said, it's a commissioned piece that I'm painting, so in theory, I am doing it professionally. I just don't have a painter on my LinkedIn bio. You gotta check me out on LinkedIn though. I am going off. So many recruiters just want me to come work for their sales company. They see I've been self-employed for 14 something years, and they're like, man, that's the kind of guy that's looking for a job. And honestly, given the economy and the difficultness of selling jobs in this industry, they're not wrong. Maybe I should be selling fucking insurance. I think I just swore. I shouldn't have said the word insurance because it's like a trigger word for me, and I feel like I'm too old to be triggered by things, but insurance drives me crazy. It's like this. You need to have insurance because insurance companies say you do. And then if you don't have it, or you don't have the proper insurance, they charge you money. They fine you. As a business, I get audited every year by my insurance company to make sure that everybody I hire has insurance. And to make sure that our insurance covers everything we do. Even though when you start your policy, you tell them everything you do. And then you tell them again, and then they go, oh, well, you did that too much, so you owe us money. I didn't use the insurance at all, other than pass the piece of paper around to people. And who am I going to argue? Who am I going to complain to? My agent that works for the insurance company? Nah. Then, we've had insurance, big commercial insurance, you know, like a $40,000 a year premium. And then in the middle of the year, they say, we don't cover that anymore. Just drop you. Motherfucker. Good thing we're doing 3 coats. Anyways, I triggered myself. If you work for an insurance company, I'm sure you're great. But it takes a certain kind of person. I mean, it's no different than the mob, in my opinion. The mob says, you got to give me money so we can protect you. And if you don't, we're going to hurt you. If you don't want to get hurt, give us some money. And they might even come back and say they need more. Tell me what's the difference. I just get a letter in the mail sometimes. Your premiums are going up. I don't have a choice in that. I'm all worked up. You got me all worked up. All right, let's speed it up. So if you're like me and you're not a professional painter, you don't have a full setup, so you can see that this is a canopy with some tarps around it. I got a fan behind you blowing into some filters. A really nice way to do doors is to hang them, so you can do front and back side. A lot faster than doing this where I got to wait for them to dry, especially doing the backs. I do 2 coats on the backs, flip them another day. But for me, because I am doing other things, I am not a painter, the dry time doesn't bother me because I got other stuff to do. So while things set up, I do other stuff, you know. I go on my social media. If you don't follow us on Instagram, you should. I don't think I mentioned insurance once there. Anyways, but I build stuff. So dry time doesn't bother me. You just have to schedule it. That's part 2 of how a carpenter paints some doors. I'm going to let these set up. The way that they went on, I definitely think I'm going to do 3 coats. And honestly, why not, right? So I'll save you part 3 because it's going to be that. Rinse and repeat. I'll do a nice light scuff sand again and then paint them all. stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching. If you just subscribed, I highly like it. I think you're supposed to like it. So like and subscribe. If you didn't subscribe, I don't know how YouTube works fully yet. So help me out. Help me help you. But I'll have more of these and a bunch of other stuff. So, deuces. Check us out on IG. I'm on TikTok, but I just post IG stuff on TikTok. I don't get TikTok. And then, yeah, I'll see you next time. I don't know.